What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Parks Podcast. This is our third episode. If you have not checked out episode 1 or 2 yet, I highly recommend it. First episode, Reggie went over the history of Mafra, Labocosmetica, and Maniac line. And in the second episode, we did a deep dive into the infamous 3pH wash system. So today we're going to be going over the Labocosmetica ceramic coatings. I am super excited for this episode. We get tons of questions about the coatings. Ceramic coatings have just been such a center point of the industry for, the last 10 years. So we're going to go over the Labo stuff specifically, but also just a little bit of the coating industry in general. So thank you for joining us again today, Reggie.
Thanks for having me, man. Happy to be here. Really excited for this episode. We pulled it up one episode before because I think we wanted to do it in episode 4, but based on of the questions already, then now we are starting with number 3. And this is a concept. We have never done this before. I have never sat down for an entire duration of a podcast solely and only speaking about the coatings of Labocosmetica, the philosophy, the way we approach stuff, how we test. It's going to be fantastic. We have I have figured out some stuff with the what's it called, the Dropbox account. So now we have some media to show you as well. Thanks to Nick.
Yeah.
Nick, if anything goes wrong in media department,
It's
Nick
my
has
fault.
all the buttons.
I've got
I'm just
panel.
sitting here. I tried to put stuff inside, but my God, we just discussing how bad I am at the tech stuff. But I'm really looking forward to this one.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm really excited. So I figure we kick it off. Give us a little bit of background history. Like, how long has Labo been into coatings? I know in the first episode you gave us a history of like how long the brand's been around, but were coatings there day one, or did those come years after? I assume they came after because you mentioned that 3pH was developed before you guys even had a ceramic coating. So
yeah,
when did coatings come into the scene for Labo?
Let's see. In Mafra, I know for sure they were already doing something with coating. It was called Forever Young, and that is predecessing of the existence of Labocosmetica. So it's pre-Labocosmetica, BL, before Labocosmetica. Sorry, stupid joke. And from that point, we started Labocosmetica, and the first, I think, 6 products. I don't even remember which ones was the first 6, but after that, 3pH came, and then we started producing. And STC, I think, was already also in Mafra, not for sure 100%, but it could be that STC was the first one. And from that point, we started finding stuff, trying to find new ingredients and looking at ceramic coatings that we are already testing. So we had the luck to buy as many ceramic coatings as we can for the testing of the 3pH. So we got a lot of experience by putting those ceramic coatings on and experiencing them and feeling them and seeing how they perform in those tests. And after that, it became a target to decide a coating line and go inside of the technology, what was then 2019, I would say the pinnacle of what that at that moment was available inside of the ceramic coating industry, because this changes so fast in trend. It changes in trend really fast, and it changes in ingredients really fast, and solvents, and it's very dynamic. I mean ultra dynamic. And I think the first flagship was BLINDO. And BLINDO came in 2019, July, August, something like this. I was the last time I actually made a statement about when a product is going to be released. You always hear me being very hesitant. When is it coming out? I am not the guy that's going to give you at least a target time. I don't even know, because this happened in 2019. February, we would launch BLINDO. It was not launched in February, and it became March, April, May, June, July, something like this, August. And that was a long 6 months for the people that were expecting it in February. And we made something very special, because that BLINDO, that old BLINDO, was that was something really, really special. In difficulty, in clarity, in hardening, in glass-like surfaces, in polishable surfaces. Absolutely bonkers amazing.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that story brings me back a little bit to my own experience, because I remember, in the past episodes, I kept saying it's been 10 years since I've been doing this, but it occurred to me yesterday, it's actually been like 13 years. Time just flies by, man. But I vividly remember started out with a couple of different coatings that were very prominent at the time, kind of like the most mainstream ones, I guess you could say. for professionals to use. And then I just went down this extensive rabbit hole of sounds kind of like what you guys did, right? Just buy everything you possibly can get your hands on and apply it and try it. And I spent so much money and time just playing around with different stuff. So it is interesting how throughout the years trends have changed, and the marketing has changed, and what installers want and what consumers want has changed to a degree. So that's awesome, man. I have no experience with the original BLINDO, the OG BLINDO. I mean, by the time I came in, we were already on BLINDO Plus. So did the base itself change, not just the addition of HPC Pro, right? Like you're saying that, okay, so
the
we're
actual
on
formulation changed.
BLINDO Plus is like version 2, basically.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Okay.
So what was happening is when we were starting to research ceramic coatings and we were comparing ceramic coatings to each other, then first we started to divide. So we started dividing the categories. So we had what we would call physical ceramic coatings, meaning that there is something left behind on the surface that is not physically removable by normal washing sequences. So you would have to polish or sand it. That's what we call something physical, something that is irrevocably there. It's there, and it's there to stay. We found that these very high physical content type of coatings were very strong against abrasion, very strong against resistance, but also had some downfalls or some downsides. They were more susceptible for chemistry. So because they were not rough in the sense of a sandpaper rough, but they were not as silky smooth as you'd expect with a top coat. So imagine taking a balloon and then taking a wet finger over a balloon. It's smooth, but yet you feel a certain roughness because of the friction.
It's like dragging. Okay.
Yeah, with the microfiber, it's more present. And then we started looking at the more chemical coatings, so the coatings that leave particles behind. So it's not a full layer or closed layer of glass or resin or whatever. It's just a particle that is now floating in a solvent that is going to stick to the surface at the moment that the solvent is slowly evaporating and making and linking to the surface. Those coatings were actually very good against chemicals, but very bad against abrasion. So when we were starting the project, we were looking, okay, so we have more physical, more abrasion resistance, but more roughness. And then we move to the chemical side where we have less abrasion resistance. And we're talking about normal washing resistance. We're not talking about hammer, chainsaw. We're not talking about keychains and stuff like that. Yeah. The terminology is very dangerous in ceramic coating. Yeah? Self-cleaning and stuff like that, scratch resistance. They translate to something completely different than what is meant by the manufacturer. Yeah, it is because of these assumptions that people assume that this is, self-cleaning means I never have to wash my car again. But that to the side, we understood that it was not capable of making like a 50-50. So we take 50% of the physical part and 50% of the chemical part, because somewhere you are going to making compromises. The more physical you go, the less smooth it's going to be. You know for sure that it's not going to be smooth. The more chemical, the less abrasion. So you have to make compromises. BLINDO, and then when you look at BLINDO, and if you can pull up the data sheet, and we will look at BLINDO for a little bit, and then we will see a little bit of the potential of what this product can do with a fantastic. This actually was successful in trying to. There we go. This is beautiful. I'm so happy this is working.
Right here.
Yeah, there we go. And then it's not so much, I'll give you a little bit of, because this is the flyer. And to give you an example, what it was like a couple of years ago, before everything was about coating successful sales now based on the number of years posted or printed on the bottle. But it used to be, for the people that are just diving into the ceramic coating world, it used to be pencil hardness. That was the thing. A couple of years ago, remember? 10H pencil, 20H pencil, and it took off and it transformed into a marketing frenzy with more bullshit than you can imagine. But there is actually a factual reason about the pencil test. There is an official ISO test. It's called the 15184 to test the hardness of a coating or varnish with the use of a group of pencils from 1H to 9H hardness. And then you have to look this up, but it gives you an idea of what the increase of hardness is. Because when we were making this, we tested it on bare aluminum. Bare aluminum has a base hardness of 6. The pencil of 6 makes a scratch inside of aluminum. And when we added BLINDO, it transferred to 9H. So is then the coating 9H? No, the coating increased the surface hardness from 6H to 9H. Coating itself, 9H by itself naked, does not exist because it needs to be put on something. Before you can actually measure it.
Now, in layman's terms, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just that would explain why if you take like piano black trim, that is just, you look at it the wrong way and it scratches, you could polish it, you can use the best microfiber, best processes, whatever, it's going to scratch. That's why adding something like BLINDO to that, it's you have to start with a substantial surface, right? Like it's only as good as the surface you're putting it on, basically.
Absolutely. Okay.
Versus like an Audi paint or something like that. That's like, generally speaking, I'm sure there's some paint codes from them that are out there that aren't, but from my experience, most of the time I worked on Audis, the paint was rock hard. I mean, it was like, so you put BLINDO on something like that, it's going to yield better results than if you put it on like piano black plastic trim or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, because after the lab tests, of course, we're not stupid. We know that nobody has bare aluminum to coat. So lab test, first measurements, scratch resistance in the form of how deep are the scratches when we abrade the surface with a sanding paper. So for example, a treated and an untreated piece of piano black plastic paint, dragging a piece of sandpaper and a 3000 grit with a kilogram of weight on it, and then dragging it over the surface, then using a measurement probe to measure the depth of the scratches and seeing the reduction versus a normal paint and versus a paint that had this coating on. Now, before we go further, the understanding of a base coat, and in this case, the base coat of a physical coating, a coating that is supposed to leave a physical layer behind that is not removable through a normal washing sequence. BLINDO is there to substitute what the clear coat is normally doing. So the clear coat is normally, because if we look at it really, we have a naked steel. We know we cannot put it outside with naked steel. It will rust. So we put paint on it. After the paint, we decided, wait, this paint is fading, so we need to put clear coat on it. After that, we figured out if we want to protect the clear coat, we're going to put a ceramic coating. So the clear coat by itself is already car protection. It is by definition the protection of the paint that is protecting the metal from rusting. So adding the coating to the clear coat is then necessary to take in the damage that the clear coat will normally do. So the damage from normal washing is now going to go inside of BLINDO. It's going to become less than on the normal paint, but it will still be damaging. And that is what it's for. The base coat is there to take in the damage that would normally go into the clear coat. But now there's a ceramic coating in between, and it's so freaking thin. We are talking about an extremely thin layer, extremely thin.
Like a sticky note or a human hair. That's an analogy
it's nothing. Exactly. Human hair, it's probably about the thinnest human hair is 18 microns, according to Wikipedia, and the coating is about 2 to 4 if you're lucky with a good installation. Although you can never prove it because the measurement devices that we use are not accurate enough to measure the actual coating. So we have then a base coat. The base coat is then a substitution for the clear coat for taking in the damage. But because this BLINDO is 100% physical, it's super rough to the surface. You feel it. It's like running into a wall with your microfiber. Like, oh my God, what is happening here? Now, to smoothen that out, you need a top coat. But that top coat then has to have the opposite qualities of what the base coat can have. So the resistance against abrasion. I'm not going to say the gloss, because ceramic coatings do not create gloss, measurable gloss. They create glossier surfaces visible by the naked eye, but measurable, there is no extra added gloss by a ceramic coating.
And just to, this is so much good information, but you're saying measurable gloss, you're referring to like, what is it, the ROI meters and stuff like that? Okay, so that's
the gloss meter.
Yeah, it's like
the gloss units.
Bring objectivity to, is it making it glossier?
Yeah,
because I get that question constantly, actually. You know, which one's glossier? Is it the coating or the sealant or this or that? And I'm like, I'm a very practical person. Like, I've learned a lot from you about the science of things, but throughout my entire career of detailing, I never got too deep into the science, to be honest. Like, I tried to learn enough to know what I was doing and not damage customers' cars and, you know, like, understand what's going on. But I feel like it's always the prep work is just what creates the look. You know, it's like whatever you put on top, it's gonna, enhance it. A lot of the coatings have like a darkening effect, where it makes it look deeper, but it's like, it's truly splitting hairs, I think, to a large degree.
Let me rephrase the question. Is there, in your opinion, a noticeable difference after the installation or not? Because that is the only thing that matters. If you visually see an alteration in the more beautiful sense, in the more improved sense, then the coating is always something that you can say, yes, the surface looks more glossier, more shiny. But when it comes down to cold, naked, hard scientific facts, we cannot prove that gloss is actually increased. And then you get the subjectiveness of what is somebody's experience with gloss.
Yep. I would say it's subjective, like to answer your question.
Yeah.
It's subjective. And when you do dozens and then hundreds of cars, darker colored paint, like a black, car, can you notice a slight darkening effect? Yes. I mean, like if you do do a section of a hood and don't do the rest, it's somewhat subjective, and also it's like splitting hairs. I mean, it's not. Yeah. So
potato. It looks good. It looks good. It looks better than before, and then I'm already satisfied. But that's not the reason we have. Sure, it's a side effect of a ceramic coating that it's increasing the visual aesthetics of the car. But the main goal is
I have seen some that make it go backwards in my career. I'm serious. I mean, and you notice it on dark colored vehicles. It's like, man, you coat the trunk and then you're looking at the quarter panel and it's like, it looks hazier.
Yeah.
It looks cloudier. I'm like,
definitely
this is not good, because think about how it's going to wear over the next several years. So when I would install a coating like that, polish it off and grab something else, because I'm like, this is not good quality product. So I have seen it go the other way.
Yeah, it's basically you pay for the attempt. That's what you get for ceramic coating. I mean, it's all the promises, everything that's on there is possible. Yes. Same for the years. So Labocosmetica decided that 1 year, just like in the automotive industry, sometimes you can buy like a Kia or something and you get 7 years warranty or 100,000 kilometers. It's either or. So either you drive, you never achieve the 100,000 and you have the first 7 years, you have warranty, or after you finish that 100,000 or 60,000 miles. So when you finish that 60,000 miles in 1 year, warranty is over. But if you don't finish those miles, you will still have the years in duration. And Labocosmetica took an average for 1 year being 15,000 kilometers, like so almost 10,000 miles, depending on the surface. And this means that this is the actual possibility of what it could last, not is going to last, because it's the biggest misconception that people think that if that number is on the bottle, it is the actual number of years that is going to provide the protection. And that would be absolutely mind-blowing to say, because if we say this really, that it is definitely guaranteed going to last for that 5 years or 75,000 kilometers or 60,000 miles, something. Say we say that. How did we test that? We tested a lot of cars in the duration of the BLINDO project. A lot of cars that drive a lot of cars that even overachieve this number. But that is an average that we had to take. And if a coating manufacturer decides, okay, we have a finished formulation, now we are going to test for 5 years. We're going to try this coating for 5 years. And when it finishes 5 years, we're going to launch it. So we finished the coating in 2020. We drive around with the coating for 5 years. We guarantee ourselves that it's 5 years there. It's 2025. And the industry has changed. So you cannot real life test for the duration of the coating, because after you have finished your testing, the entire industry has changed from solvents to ingredients to everything. So how do they do it? The majority of these brands, I'm not saying the majority because we don't do it. We find the tests inconclusive. We need more real world data. So you have a salt spray test where they put the coating on a piece of metal, whatever, it's decided inside ASTM B117 for the people that want to go deep into the freak off of the freaking testing in ceramic coatings. The 15184 ISO for the scratch resistance. Then there is the test for the fingerprint and smudges. Then we have the UV testing, so where they use a UV lamp to test the degradation of the coating, cracking, fading, hazing. And so there are many of these tests, and these tests then accelerate weather testing and give them a number. So if a coating manufacturer decides to say, okay, it's an 8-year coating, that means they have done all the extensive testing with the ISO, the ASTM, to confirm this speed testing, that indeed in these 3, 4, 5 setups, the coating lasts indeed somewhat hours relating to the actual real life for 6, 7, 8 years. But like I said, it is not that what it's going to last, because the tests give you an idea of the potential of what it can do, but it doesn't account for all the variables outside. And it doesn't account for the biggest variable, and that is the user. That user, compared to what the lab testing is doing versus what is actually happening in the real world, you know this. You know this from personal experience. You have this. You would know that the coating that you used to use in the past, that the instruction said this amount, put it on the surface, and you slowly figured out that you needed less to achieve the same result. But you don't have to mention names, but indeed you found out, oh, they said you have to use this amount for this amount. They say 3 milliliters per square meters, something like this. So that means you can do 10 square meters. If I count my own car, I'm way beyond 10 square meters. Way. When I count the roof, the trunk, and the bonnet, then I'm already at a lot. And then I have to do the sides. So these calculations of milliliters per square meter or per square foot, it doesn't reflect to the real world, because it is user dependent. One guy's going to put more, one guy's going to put less, and nobody is measuring how much they put in. So the success of the coating alone is already in the hands of the user.
Yep. So I really like how you guys do the kilometers or the miles. It just, to me, seems more logical than doing the years. And there was a period of time where it was coatings, and then it happened to PPF as well, which it seems like, at least with the PPF, it's kind of stabilized a little bit. But I referred to it as like the warranty wars. It was like all of a sudden, well, ours is warranted for 3 years, and then another company puts theirs to 4. Okay, we're going to put ours to 5. And it's just, I couldn't help but think, as the person installing this stuff, what has changed about the product? That's suddenly now it's rated for 2 years more or whatever. It's like, so I've heard through the rumor mill, I don't know if this is true or not, but a lot of these companies that do offer warranties, it's based off of research of how long people keep vehicles. It's not actually based off of the durability of the product, right? Like it's more of, hey, statistically speaking, we know this many people will only own a car past 5 years or 8 years or 10 years or whatever the heck the insane claim is. We might have to pay out 1 warranty claim a year. So cool, whatever.
Yeah, just put it on the paper.
We'll claim and so my issue with that is, and the reason why I like how you guys do it, I like that it's rated in kilometers and years, so it's a more realistic claim. And I like that there's not warranty, because the warranties really, they squeeze out the installer. If you think about who's winning, the coating company is winning because they're selling more of their coating, i.e. consumers, the car owners are seeking out shops that will install this warranted product because they're like, oh, it's guaranteed for 10 years or 8 years. I have to have it. And the customers are winning because they now have leverage over the installer. If something goes wrong, they can say, oh, well, look here on my piece of paper, it says that it's supposed to last 8 years or whatever. And then you get into this whole, it's a deep rabbit hole, and we don't have to go too far down it, but which companies will actually pay out a warranty claim, which ones will not, under what circumstances? There's 5 million variables that play into this. And I could be wrong, because I never worked with companies that did warranties. I actively avoided coatings that claimed warranties. But if it's anything like PPF, I imagine if you do convince them, hey, this coating failed, the customer took perfect care of it, and this is a warranty claim, you need to pay me. They're not going to pay you the full price that you charged the customer to install the coating.
Hell no.
They're going to give you a small percentage of it, which in the world of PPF, yes, that is helpful, because say you just got a bad sheet of film or something and the hood goes bad or whatever, I'd rather scrape back some money, to have to reinstall this panel. They give you the new sheet of film. That's great, but for coatings, it's like, there's a lot of time that goes into repolishing and recoating an entire car. Yeah, they're going to comp you the bottle. They're going to give you this small amount of money. It's a really dangerous business model for a detail shop to say, hey, we're just going to sell hundreds of warranted coatings a year, you're kind of gambling and rolling the dice and saying, I really hope this person just sells the car in the next couple of years so that I don't have to deal with this, because you could put yourself in a really bad situation. So I don't like that type of marketing, as someone who's ran a service business. I think it's bad for everybody involved, except really the coating company. They end up winning because they're selling a lot more of it. So
yeah, because if you read a lot, if you have to research this, because you have to read the instructions and read the warranty, and you will read always that it's either the fault of the customer or the installer. So it's the user, the coating user and the coating installer. Those two are the only ones that are responsible. It's never the ceramic coating itself. Never.
Right. And I mean, with paint protection film, you can take it off and send it in. That's been my experience. They say, okay, the good manufacturers, they go, hey, we want to learn what happened to this. And there's that physical evidence. I can't take the coating off the car and say, look, it's that
what you say is, you say everything needs to be said about warranty, because that is exactly where are you going to put that warranty? How are you going to prove that ceramic coating is there? You were hoping that you did a good installation. You hope that you made it an almost invisible. It is an invisible layer on the car. You want to give warranty on something that's invisible. If it fails, you will never find out, but it will always fail in the hands of the customer. So whatever is going to happen, and of course we have issues to say. We have had issues ourselves with customers. They have their own minds that they think this is how to do it. You and me, we have had the opportunity to install this coating. You have seen me do the training. I'm not teaching you how to put on the coating. I'm teaching you what you need to do when it goes wrong. That is what I'm teaching you. Right. Everybody can install a ceramic coating, especially these days. But when it goes wrong, because the ceramic coating brands never make a mistake, but when it goes wrong, what do? How do you prepare? All those things. So I try to focus on the things that make the installation successful. I'm not going to tell that you have to do cross hatch or think of all these marketing things. Leveling the coating. Really? What are you leveling? There's nothing to see. There's a liquid that's there and it's not there. And if it's still there, it's turning into a high spot. It's inventing stuff that is not there to make it sound interesting, and then adding a slap on a warranty for the amount of years. Oh no, I'm going to give you this 5-year coating, and it's definitely going to fail in those 5 years. 100,000%. How many customers actually follow protocol of maintenance? How many detailers actually follow protocol of maintenance? And the hidden lines. Don't forget the hidden lines, because I always say, when you have a ceramic coating, you have to deplete that ceramic coating to the end. You have to maintain it. You have to care for it. You have to give it everything it needs to. It can perform for the duration of the promise of the manufacturer. If you start topping from day one, why did you take a ceramic coating? I don't understand slapping on so many extra products, and especially with maintenance. And then we come back to episode 2 of 3pH.
Yep.
3 shampoos that can extend the life of that coating longer than that was actually without the maintenance and without topping products. And the topping products should be the solution for a problem where the coating is failing. These so-called low spots. New terminology inside of a low spot. A high spot is too much, and a low spot is apparently too little.
Not enough.
My God. A low spot. And they figure out low spots after a very, very long time. A low spot is visibly from day one. I can prove it on my windscreen, where I have testing the new coatings for the window. Something sprayable, something ceramic coating type of an installation. And after the installation, I could already immediately see that I did not do a good installation, because I had a little bit of less hydrophobicity with the steam. So I immediately knew that this was not a good installation. So it's either immediately visible, but low spots do not turn out after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They are either there or they are not, but they don't magically appear. The coating is there or it's not. And that's why giving warranty for something that is invisible makes no sense. It's better to say, sir, I'm going to give you all the service that I can do. Because from my practical point of view, sometimes something small happens. We had a little chip on little scratch on the door. It was in the coating. Well, it's fine. And I said, okay, I'll polish it out and give you some new top coat, and I will do it for free. It was 5 minutes work. And instead of saying, this coating is going to last, I let them pay the coating and the time that I need to put it on. That's it. No warranty. The rest this is it. This is what it's going to cost.
Yeah, the thing I would always educate my customers on, because man, for years, you know, not to sound like egotistical or anything, but like we had a good reputation for quality. So I would get a lot of inquiries. But at the time, like the peak of those warranty wars, as I like to call it, you know, we would have a lot of that was like the first question they'd ask. Hey, I see on your website you don't offer anything with a warranty. Could I pay you to install this or install that? And I would just always tell them, like, this is no different than applying car wax. You know, what sort of business model would it be for me if I said, I'm going to put this wax on your car and I guarantee you that it's going to last 6 months, and if it doesn't, I'll redo the whole car. It's illogical. You know, it's there to be degraded, and that degradation is going to depend on how the car is stored, how often it's driven, how it's maintained, what climate and environment it's driven in. That's what you're paying me for. So like what you just said makes perfect sense. It's, hey, if you have an area that gets worn down prematurely, or, you know, due to circumstances of the environment, then you can pay me to reapply that area. But, you know, this is not like PPF. You know, warranty for PPF is important. That makes sense to me, but
it's doable. You have something you can physically see. It's
right
there. You feel it. You see it. It's there. It's not as difficult to make a warranty about that. It's not difficult.
Yeah, it's a substantial product. It's very expensive, and in most cases, the average person's not going to be able to remove it from their car themselves. So, like, I understand wanting, you know, it's a kind of a serious decision to say, hey, I'm wrapping my entire car in this product, and how long is it going to last? I need some sort of reassurance that it's not going to fail in 6 months or something, because that would be a huge undertaking to now then remove it. And, you know, so the question I have as far as your guys' coating lineup. So you've dropped a lot of knowledge already. The biggest observation I noticed about Labo's coating lineup, and you kind of explained it a little bit, you guys have physical coatings and chemical coatings. And then you even have STC that's like 70% physical, 30% chemical.
Yeah, pop it up on the screen and let people see what we're talking about. The STC and the I think STC. Yeah, this is a hybrid. This is typically the choice of the compromise. So we had two of them, two hybrids. We have, let's say, BLINDO, 100% physical. That's it, 100% physical. Needs to have a friend, 100% chemical, HPC2 and HPC Pro. Come back to that one. Yep. But we also made two hybrids. STC is one of them, and SAM is one of them. STC has 70% of that physical coating material inside and 30% of chemical protection inside. So it blends to each other, making a physical layer, not as thick as BLINDO because it's not as physical as BLINDO. It's not as clear as BLINDO because there's chemical protection inside. So you could say, I would say yellowish compared to BLINDO. BLINDO is like crystal clear glass, where a compromise in a hybrid has something else, giving then the more darkening effect. And the choice is then, can you put STC alone? And we used to do it because we used to have a follow-up product for the first 2 weeks. We called it Reflecto. It was a quick detailer without UV protection that was there to increase the hydrophobics that degraded very fast in 2 weeks. So you had peak hydrophobics from day of installation, and it will go down in 2 weeks, and then the product would disappear. That was to help STC, because that 70% makes it rough to the touch after installation. Beading and sheeting, not that great, because sheeting is more its thing than beading. The surface tension is not strong enough to create that hydrophobicity. So this one you will often see on rims and other parts that need to be coated in a single step, that are needed of some abrasion resistance. Now that is STC. It has a different pencil, has different hardness, different ingredients. I'm not even going to say, I know S stands for silicium dioxide, SiO2. The T stands for titanium dioxide. Great names, fantastic. So far, I've seen 99% of all ceramic coatings being in clear liquid, and anything they put on side of the bottom. I've never seen silicium dioxide with my naked eye. I've seen parts of it, yes. I've also seen some titanium dioxide, I think, because they all look like white powder. So you cannot identify them from what they look like. And STC was the first. After STC came BLINDO and HPC and SAM. And SAM is the other hybrid that is crossing to the other side. So STC here has 70% physical and 30% chemical. And then when we look at SAM, we will see that it's reversed around into 20% physical and 80% chemical. Now,
And just real quick, one note for anyone watching, because I know I'm going to get questions. STC is a professional coating, so this is going to be for detailers, businesses. SAM is, I don't want to say the equivalent, but it's, if you're wanting a hybrid as a consumer, this is your guys' offering. It's SAM.
In my in practical cases, I would say this one has overachieved and reached its goal many times that I can verify.
Okay.
For the installation, 80% physical, 20% chemical. It's not like STC that has these ingredients that build a layer. This product, what they call, this is the name, SAM, self-assembled monolayer. Spend some hours on Wikipedia, try to figure out what it means, but it basically comes down to that when this stuff in its mixture lands onto the surface in combination with oxygen, it builds itself up to a layer. If that makes sense. So there's let's say if I pour in Coca-Cola and I shake it, I get this foamy layer on top. Let's say it's something like this, that it's doing something, fizzing something, and then building itself to a layer. And it then creating is still physical. So it's compared, if you let HPC dry versus SAM. With SAM, you have crystals, and with HPC, you have, I would say, plasticky, powdery like of a substance.
Okay, so you guys have chosen to offer these systems, which are primarily physical, or in BLINDO's case, 100% physical with the chemical top coat.
Yeah.
And then you have the, I guess, call them hybrids, you know? Okay, so SAM and STC. What are the pros and cons to doing one route versus the other?
I would say for the STC, you have something that is very strong and abrasion resistant, but not has any beading or very good chemical protection. There is some chemical protection, but not that good. And when we move to SAM, we have an excellent chemical protection, but we have lower friction resistance. So that means that our washing movement should be adapted to the type of coating we have. So you could use, I would say, I'm never going to say use a clay towel on a ceramic coated car, but you are more likely to use something with stronger friction successfully on a physical coating than on a chemical coating. And SAM is a consumer grade, so we decided that this one was allowed to be sold to the consumers as well. Also a possibility, and then in combination with HPC2, maybe a little bit of an overkill, or maybe for something to put in between, because by itself, I think SAM is absolutely fantastic. Price, quality, value, amount to be put onto the surface, also very interesting, because that is something, also discussion that I see a lot. How many cars can I do with one bottle? Please stick with 1 or 2 cars, depending on the size of the bottle, and that's it. If you do
for
5
SAM.
cars,
for
SAM.
Okay.
Actually for every single freaking coating, because people never read the SDS. They never read how much solvent is in there.
Yeah. You're not actually leaving that much behind if you're trying to stretch it like crazy. But HPC and HPC Pro are unusual in that regard, though, right? I mean, you can get quite a lot of surface area out of a smaller amount. I mean, I remember when I first met you, you came out, we were coating that, what was it? The Renault, that really cool, like hatchback.
Renault 5 GT.
Yes. So I start putting the HPC Pro on, and you're like, dude, you're using way too much. Like, you need to like back it off a little bit. So, because I was used to most of the coatings I would install, and maybe this is not the right way of thinking about it, but prior to Labo, you know, I was always just like, the customer's paying for this. I'm going through all this trouble. We've done the paint correction. The last thing I'm going to do is skimp out on the coating,
exactly,
you know, and then have issues because I didn't put enough on. So I was like slapping it on there, but dialed it back probably like 50%, 25, 50%. And the install just immediately became much easier. It was like separating as I was putting it on because I was applying so much.
Yeah, this one, I can tell it has not to do with the ingredients itself. It has to do with the volatility of the solvents inside. Okay. So HPC2 and HPC Pro are upgrades. So they are different from each other. So 2.0 is literally a upgrade from the original HPC, where HPC Pro has been redeveloped at its side. So instead of using a polysiloxane, don't know what it is, it says it on the bottle, versus HPC Pro with a polysiloxane. There are 2 chemicals or 2 ingredients inside that are doing this. And HPC 2.0 is actually my first from beginning to the end project that I have been inside, and can actually say that I have contributed to the end result by taking the coating with me all over the place and testing them in the most strange conditions, trying to find anything that is improvable or it needs some adaptations. And then we're happy to say that the tests in Singapore blew me away the most. 94% humidity, and then my cigarette was going out while I was smoking, so it was like wet air, and the coating was still perfectly fine to apply. And this is the choice.
So it's so easy to apply that I was extremely skeptical when I first put it on. I was like, this is gonna last like 3 months. I'm like, what? This is weird. This is weirdly easy. But you know, the oldest install I have is, funny enough, one of my neighbors, and so I'm able to keep pretty good tabs on the vehicle. Granted, this guy, he's very thorough when it comes to his maintenance. Does it frequently, and he does it correctly. But we're going on like 2 years now with HPC Pro, and it's holding up great. I mean, it's doing well.
You did a fantastic installation. That is what I said. I said it yesterday. Some other guy, I forget his name, but he said, "Yo, your products are absolutely fantastic." I said, "Yes." But on our side, we did the label, the chemical, the formulation, and then you make it a success by using it installing it correctly and using it correctly. That's where the success comes from. And it goes for the coatings the same. So the upgrades, you find a new solvent. Solvent is then less aggressive, because if you let coating dry onto the surface, you might see how aggressive they are when they burn into your clear coat. Literally, those solvents in coating material. You have the rainbow stuck in the clear coat. Everybody that has ever done a rainbow coating, this purple, yellow, greenish. I don't know what the frick. But the solvents inside make it different. The application becomes different, so you have more smoothness because the viscosity is more light, so you have a nice smooth. The older ceramic coatings had more of the gasoline type solvents, so it was more like streaking I would say a syrup, almost like a syrup, not a liquid, but like a syrup. You're pushing a syrup around the place. And then the choices of the ingredients, and for 2.0 was a huge project, because it was actually a big upgrade. We wanted to do more surface with the same amount, so more I'm not going to say more bottles, but more cars from the same bottle. I'm going to say more surface from the same amount of product. So the revenue went up like 30%. Different type of ingredient inside, making it almost impossible to create high spots. And then with high spots, I mean the ones that you have visibly, really the black and dark, the rainbow type of high spots. These capable of doing it outside, then not having those petro distillate type of solvents that are more the greasy ones, that have that greasy, sticky finish right after application. It evaporates very fast, but those are the cars you cannot put outside immediately. And HPC 2.0 is a coating that you can do outside, because there is no petro distillate type of big gasoline solvent inside. So the surface is never going to become sticky. So you have all the time and all the possibilities to install this coating correctly, and making the success rate a lot higher.
Interesting. Yeah, it's anybody who's dealing with a difficult environment to install coatings, I would highly recommend it, because there's nothing worse than, you've spent all the time prepping the car, and that's where the real time is. But then if you're using a difficult coating due to your environment or just due to the coating itself, it can add on so many extra hours and headaches and repolishing areas and having to recoat areas because you're polishing down high spots. That is one of the most aggravating things in the world. And kind of circling back a little bit to our point about, the coatings are, they do degrade. It's just the nature of it. You're going to have to replace it one day.
Yeah.
And like your story of the guy who needed just a little spot repair done, right?
Yeah.
I would much rather use something that I can just quickly and easily redo. It's just, you don't have that sense of like defeat, when you come in, you're like, oh, I got to redo say they get water spots on the hood and the roof and the trunk, like a common scenario like that, parked under trees or whatever. It's like, okay, well, this isn't going to take too long, get out some Fiero, bang it out, put some HPC back on it. Customer's happy. It's easy. So
that sounds like the perfect world to me. That is absolutely just if something goes wrong, don't worry. One round of Fiero, little hit of Fiero, put him fresh coating on, send it outside immediately. Guy could be inside and outside before he finishes his coffee. Man, my God. and you make a business. I'd rather see coatings do the actual 2 years. I don't need 5, 6, 7, 10 years, just 2 years, 2 real years, 2 winters, 2 summers, 2 springs, 2 falls. After that, it can die. Don't worry, because the car will not look as good. But just a quick one, Fiero.
That's it. The hydrophobics is what most consumers focus on, and it's what most detailers focus on.
Yeah, so blindly focus on.
And I personally, I would always, whenever I have these conversations with people, I just say, show me the cars. Show me the car that's had it on for 5 years or 8 years, whatever. Maybe there are coatings that are still hydrophobic with no toppers after 5 years. I would honestly find that pretty unbelievable, or 8 years or 10 years or whatever. But even if that does exist, that car is going to look like shit because it's been washed 10 million times. It's been driven a bunch of miles. It's been through the elements. It's had bird crap on it. It's had water spots on it. It's like, you're going to hit a point where, most people who pay a lot of money to ceramic coat their car are particular about how their car looks, obviously. So you're going to hit a point at which it's like, oh, it's just time to redo this. So that's always been interesting to me, the mindset of like, people want it to be as hydrophobic for as many years as possible with as little maintenance as possible.
Yeah. And
I'm
dream,
like,
the dream.
I know, right? It's like, oh, that'd be nice, but it's just doesn't really exist in my opinion. So,
no, perfect.
Talk to me a little bit about. So, obviously, you've explained how the physical coating has more of the, like, it's actually building up a film, but it's obviously, as we said, very, very thin.
Yeah.
But it's going to handle the physical abrasion better. And for anyone listening, we're talking about like washing with nice microfiber. We're not talking about abrasion, like throwing rocks at it or dragging your car keys around on the hood, stuff like that. But versus like a HPC 2.0 or HPC Pro physical coating, that's really what's going to give you the hydrophobics, the chemical resistance, the things that most people want to see. But say you use HPC 2.0 or HPC Pro as standalone, in your opinion or your experience, and I know this is probably hard to bring objectivity to, but how much physical resistance can they handle? Because I've been trying to learn that. Like, I would be hesitant just knowing a little bit about how the technology works. If someone's ever going to go to, like, say, like a mobile detailer who's just kind of a little rough on the car, not to generalize. There's a lot of detailers there, but or like, even God forbid the dealership washes it, or you go to a brush wash. I'm like, I feel like an HPC Pro or HPC 2.0 would just not do well in that circumstance. But I've not really tested it hardcore to see like how much abrasion can this chemical only coating take.
So I'll tell you how we do it. What we do is we take a hood. That hood is then coated, prepared to the max, of course. Veritas waiting and then curing the coating, and then we wait about, depending on the type, but most of the time we wait 3 and 5 days. We don't wait the entire 10 days. Then I go do wash resistance testing. So what I do is I use a wool. Yeah, it's a bear claw type of a wool. It's very, very rigid wool. No, it's not very nice to wash your car with, but it's meant there to scrub the surface. And then I take a soap that is a degreaser, extremely caustic, has no lubrication whatsoever. And that is the one I use. So I don't use neutral shampoos. I use a very caustic alkaline shampoo. Degreaser, I have to say, it's not a shampoo. And I spray it into the surface, and then I wash it. And then I count one wash when I wash one side from top to bottom, and then from bottom to top. So basically every one wipe is counted as a wash and then counted over the other. So back and forth once means I did 2 washes on the car. Then I start washing and rinsing, and I start to see when it starts to degrade. And then when you see the degrading, and based on of the podcast, because of the success of the other podcast and the video following up on the podcast, I will make a video following up on this, where I'm going to use some washing resistance videos that I still have on my phone and my computer, that I can show you how we do it and what a coating looks like when it starts to break down, what we look for. That's the washing resistance. And we wash, that's where we base our So we count then, okay, so many years, say we wash the car every week. That means there's 52 washes. That means there's 100 washes if somebody would wash. Now, then we come to like 90 to 100 washes that it can survive normal washing. And after that, I am a little bit more strict. So I will count the coating as deceased sooner than actually is allowed. But I'm looking for specific sheeting effects. So everybody's focusing on hydrophobics. I'm focusing on what is left on the surface. How much water is still left? In the beginning, when the roll-off and the roll-off angle and the contact angle both are very high, then you have water falling down on the sides and there's almost no water left. But as soon, and this week I saw in this video where somebody was showing the hydrophobics, there was so much little droplets left on the side that you cannot count that as a good installation anymore. The more water is left behind, it might have hydrophobicity, yes. That means the contact angle is very high, but you need a roll-off angle that the droplet has enough weight to fall and roll off the side. So everybody's blindly focusing on hydrophobics, where it actually is something more that we are looking for. And a good sheet, if I could make a coating that would just sheet off the water completely for 2 years straight, I would make it tomorrow, and I will push everything to make it the best-selling coating. No hydrophobics.
You'd be really wealthy if you were able to accomplish that, because that's, even though it's not what people want to see, that's going to be the best thing for the surface.
No water left. No water left. That's the best. I was looking at Sucreum products, and they actually have a combination of a wax and a sealant inside of each other. And that product has the perfect roll-off angle. So the size of the droplet is very, very low, and it already starts rolling off a surface. An inclined surface, not a flat surface. So it needs to have 1-2 degrees sort of an incline for a roll-off to start. But in fact, it was perfect to see that there was almost no droplets left. That is what the coating should be doing, taking off the water and not having to need to use as much, because everybody's showing how much these drying gels can absorb. That's cute, but when you have a ceramic coated car, there is never going to be that amount of water that you need that size of a tile or that size of an absorption for. It's already a ceramic coated car, so probably if you shake the car, you can lose 50% of all the water that is already on there.
Just get going down the road and slam on the brakes real hard and all the
water. I said it this way. This guy said, he responded to a video that when I do a long drive and I want to wash the car, I go to a self-wash unit and I quickly rinse the rims. I quickly rinse the bumper, so the bug impacts are mostly gone. There will still be some splatter left, but it's not that high amount. And he says, well, what do you do about driving? I said, put on the gas as fast as possible and then drive as fast as I can to get the water off. Ceramic coated car, you brake once, half of the water's already gone.
Hey, that sounds like a fun way to dry the car, better than a towel.
Yes, definitely.
So kind of to circle back, like HPC Pro versus, okay, let's just use this example. HPC 2.0 versus SAM. How much rougher can you be with the washing on SAM versus HPC 2.0? Or would you just say it's so marginal that it's not... Like, is SAM that much more resistant to wash?
Much more. So let's say it like this. If I take this finger right here, and I put a microfiber on it, and I start pushing and then rubbing like this, I can remove HPC 2.0 or any chemical coating like that, because it's not a physical layer. It is particles sticking to the surface. They are not anchored deep into the paint. They are... sticking to the paint. I am still trying to figure out how ceramic coatings are bonding and adhering to the surface. I still don't understand it, but let's say it's still sticking there and you can easily rub these off. These are the coatings that degrade faster, even with normal physical, because every time you wash it, you remove some of those particles and the surface tension is going to increase more and you see less beading because you are slowly taking them off. When you take a product like SAM or a coating like SAM, you can have more because you are not physically able to remove that. You could kill the hydrophobics by scrubbing it with a microfiber and dry, but the coating will still sheet off in comparison to an HPC or a chemical coating where you are frictioning the coat, then you're already removing what is creating the coating. It basically goes the same for HPC Pro, but because HPC Pro has polysilos on it, it can take more than the one that has in HPC 2.0. So the membrane made by HPC Pro is denser than the membrane made by the 2.0. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
Because I have to be really careful, ladies and gentlemen. I
yeah.
am not a chemist, nor do I have any degree in nanotechnology. I am now simply trying to explain the experience I had with these products and what was been told to me.
Mhm.
So please verify all my scientific pronunciations because I might not be 100% correct.
Hey, the science is all super interesting, and it's obviously extremely it's essential, and it's very educational. But at the end of the day, it's about what actually happens in the real world with these cars and the
Yeah.
coatings that you put on them. So this is awesome information. So with that being said, um, I've noticed for PPF, some are compatible, some are not. Personally, prior to the dedicated PPF coatings that have come out from you guys, we've put HPC Pro on a lot of PPF with really good results.
So yeah, internationally successful installations. Probably maybe even better hydrophobical situations with HPC Pro than with the Armorius, but we have to dive into the Armorius coating or the PPF coating a little bit to understand that it's not the same as a paint coating, and the target of a PPF coating is not the same as a paint coating.
Mm-hmm.
They don't behave the same. They have similarities, so they might be in the same family, so they have some acquaintances that are similar, but the actual goal of a PPF coating is different than on paint. Where paint, you are trying to increase surface tension by making it smoother, less grippy, less chances for scratching, and less chances of damaging and looking it more beautiful. Where the PPF coating is much, much more like skincare. You are trying to keep something out of the pores, and
it's extremely porous.
Yeah, and diminishing results because I mean, on paint, diminishing coatings is slower, so it will degrade from full hydrophobics to zero hydrophobics in 2 years, where a PPF coating can literally dive from 2 to 3 months, and then the next month the hydrophobicity could be gone, and that's perfectly fine because it's thermodynamic, temperature resistant, temperature dependent in hydrophobics. So many sealants below 5 degrees Celsius don't almost do nothing anymore. And when as soon as it becomes spring, they start to come alive and the molecules start to move and they become hydrophobic again.
Wow. I did not know that. That's really interesting. So, okay. Interesting. So like scenarios, because I'm trying to get ahead of the questions that I know I'm going to get because so PPF shops, it's super common. People put a full front on a car and then the customer coats the rest of the car. It would probably be logical to just put HPC Pro on everything, or would you recommend the dedicated PPF coating for the front end of the car that has the PPF and then the HPC Pro for the back half of the vehicle, so to speak?
So then I have to stay in our lane, so to speak. But we tested on our stuff, but I cannot vouch for all PPFs. So yes, I've heard about the big brands all had a round of HPC Pro by one of the colleagues internationally, and successfully has been done. But we are now still waiting in how long that's going to last. So that the successful installation, yes. The first couple of months, yes. Maybe first year, also yes. But we are now getting close to, okay, we are now passing the first year. Most of them did it less than a year or more than a year ago. Now we will see if it's still valuable and alive. I got one guy that I hold very dearly that is testing it for me, not by my decision or by my question, but just out of his internal curiosity. He wanted to do this to see this, and he also has his findings. And yeah, so for me, it's more where HPC Pro, I really wanted to last much longer, and for PPF, for me, the coating is something that I would love to repeat every year, like a maintenance. So the coating is an addition to what the PPF can already do, making it almost full circle. Increase that water spot resistance just a little bit. Increase the chemical resistance just a little bit. Increase the repelling of that disgusting dirt that's going inside of that purse a little bit. Just an addition to, because naked, I already see PPF naked is also not very beautiful. It looks more flat than flat paint. I mean, in water behavior. It could, yeah. It's so for the PPF, the coating is an addition that I want to repeat every somewhat. So I think the promises we put on the bottles are a little bit out there. 3 years is very, very, very long on PPF. I can imagine that it's possible, but real world scenarios, I will cut that down in half immediately just to make sure that I don't make any promises to customers saying, hey man, It's 3 years on the bottle, and I definitely believe that it's possible, garage cap maintenance, but real life situations, I've never seen anybody do perfect maintenance. Maybe one or two guys that really got close to a perfect maintenance cycle, but most of them sometimes skip a wash or skip something, and then you are already outside of the maintenance cycle because you forgot one round of maintenance, so to speak.
Yep. I've got, so that is one thing that I do have a lot of experience with is coating PPF. And my thoughts about it have changed over the years, but sort of kind of stay the same to a degree. And it's essentially just everything you said, right? Like I look at it as you're putting this on to hopefully keep the plastic in better condition. If all you care about is hydrophobics, that's easy to achieve with your PPF. Because like we at sort of the peak of my service business, we were doing a lot of full body PPF. So I did all sorts of A/B testing, where I had a client, 2 cars, both fully coated. Fully wrapped. I'm sorry. I'd coat one, I'd not coat the other. And then I would just monitor to see, in some cases I would even, like on personal vehicles that were fully wrapped, I'd coat half the vehicle and not the other half and just see. And like that was pretty much my observation over time, was that it does seem to help to a degree with keeping the plastic looking better visually. Now, it's not like coating paint where it's going to be super noticeably hydrophobic for a very long time with good maintenance. So I'm with you, like on the skincare kind of analogy. It's just it's almost like insurance. And like for what we were charging at the time for full fronts and for full body, a lot of the time I wouldn't even charge the customer to coat the film, because I was looking at it like, well, I don't, if I put this big price tag on it, obviously their expectation is going to be, okay, now you've like supercharged my PPF and it's going to be even better and more miraculous than the other car you did for me that didn't have the coating on it.
Yeah.
I just looked at it as like, man, we just slaved over this car for a week, doing full body, and we would go hardcore on our PPF installs. Like, yeah, you saw, I think, some of the cars when you came out here, but bulk wrapping, doing one-piece bumpers, taking the door handles off, taking the badges off, like, so to me, I'm like, we're already charging a lot of money. Like, let's just put the coating on it, and if it helps, great. If not, then whatever, we didn't charge them for it. So, but by the very end of it all, I lean towards, yes, it is better to coat the PPF than not to coat it. But
Yeah.
with the expectations that you just kind of laid out, right? Like it is not to be treated like clear coat, where it's like, okay, I'm going to get 3, 4, or 5 years of hydrophobics out of this or whatever. It's something you do once a year. And most people who are putting PPF on a car have spent a lot of money, so that, with how easy your guys' PPF coating is to use, you shouldn't have to charge a whole lot of money to recoat it once a year. I mean, unless they just maybe like absolutely trash the car, but it's just like a good insurance policy for an expensive product that's on the paint,
Absolutely, it is. So I think so. Many guys do a coating on PPF, and you are rolling the dice every single time. You're rolling the dice. You're rolling the dice if everything's going to be fine. Because putting ceramic coating on paint, it's been done so much, but successful installations on PPF or chewable installation on PPF are very scarce. And then what are you doing to the PPF? Because yes, many manufacturers say you can put our stuff on PPF, but
solvents and all that stuff on plastic. It's like,
God. I mean, self-healing, word on the street is some people say it's forever. Some people say it's degrading also over time. I'm not a specialist to make any things, but if I'm going to put something on my PPF that's even going to diminish self-healing faster, or is even going to create a worse finish or a permanent worse finish by making the PPF milky or hazy, that's why we designed these two, because by definition, they are completely different. Everybody says, oh, it's the same coating. Everything is different. It's very different coating, because the matte one, of course, cannot make any gloss, any reflection extra. So the ingredients in there are completely different than versus a completely glossy finished. And in a glossy finish, you will have some similarities with other coatings, but the coatings are absolutely different. And especially the matte one I like, because the testing it on matte films is fun, and you will get a nice idea that it's not increasing anything. But I like it, put it to the test. So when you put it on matte black and then really matte black, so yes, there is an alteration that it looks brighter, more. I cannot say darkened enough, but there is a change versus not and yes. But there is no gloss. No measurable gloss is achieved.
It's like a color saturation looks a little bit better, but it's not shinier.
Little bit. You can see that you can see the difference between where there's no coating and there is a coating. But when you start moving around in angle, so when you go to the 15-degree angle, then there is no increase in mirror finish or whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. So I assume, not that this conversation is about your guys' PPF necessarily, but I assume you guys are designing your PPF to be coated, because that's another thing that I've always thought about is, and you kind of tapped on that a little bit. It's like, what are we doing to these PPFs when we put coating on it? I had a bad experience one time. So this was many, many years ago, long time ago, before they had PPF dedicated coatings, or at least any that I was aware of. It was, not during that time. So it was matte PPF, put a coating on it. It must have done something to the top coat, because it made the film so susceptible to any type of damage. I mean, I'm talking like bird poops on it once, permanently etched. Bug gut splatter on the bumper, permanently etched. Water spots, mostly permanently etched. I mean, it was not a good experience. I ended up having to rewrap the entire car.
Oh my God.
It was a shit show. Yeah. And so from that point on, I really thought to myself, I'm like, what's going on when you put this, at the time, not dedicated PPF coating. It's packed with solvents. I'm putting it on this porous plastic. Is it changing the top coat? For those who don't know, I mean, PPFs, all of them at this point, I don't think there's a brand, at least not one that people use, that doesn't have a top coat. So it's like a 3-layer deal here. You got your plastic, your TPU, you've got your adhesive on the bottom, the glue that makes it stick, and then you have a top coat. And the top coat's there to protect the PPF. So after that experience I had, I'm like, oh my God, I started spiraling in my mind. I'm like, what am I doing to the top coat? Am I destroying it? Am I, and then obviously you have different films that have different types of top coats. Some are very hydrophobic, some are not. Some have stronger self-healing, some have less. And so it's like, I assume you guys are developing your PPF and your coatings hand in hand to where it's like a perfect match.
Yeah, we are lucky that before we had our own PPF, that we had to test on other people's PPF. So just like we did with 3PH, just like we did before, we tested on other people's first before we start doing it on our own stuff. The only thing I'm thinking about is that, just like you said, many PPFs have something from the factory, and most of them already have something hydrophobic in the beginning. And I am still wondering if it's better to do it immediately or to wait until that factory coat is gone or almost gone. Let's say almost gone. Not don't wait till this turns completely flat, because now on my car, it's performing beyond my expectations. The couple of parts, only the mirrors and the bottom part of the trunk has not been done, and that is dead flat. There is no hydrophobics whatsoever. There's nothing special on the PPF other than the PPF itself. So that is still performing to a certain degree that I'm still thinking, okay, I'm going to deplete this. I'm going to see how long it takes before it mortifies to dead beyond dead, and then put the coating on. Now I'm in the testing phase because I'm curious. I'm afraid if you go to another brand, and we will generalize that Labocosmetica coatings can go on anything. And if I say that, then I already cut myself in the finger, because there will be that guy that has a specific type of PPF.
There's so many brands now. It's
insane. So it's extremely hydrophobic, and the coating is not bonding because there's nothing to bond to, because it's already a rejecting surface. So that type of a PPF, should you put a coating on it? No, because it's not going to stick. It doesn't make any sense. So, wait until that is over, so that the surface becomes susceptible for accepting a bondage of a new coating, instead of hoping I'm going to do a good installation, and then 6 months later everything kills and dies, and all the promises have destroyed the faith of the customer, and you lose him forever and you'll see him again. No more Christmas cards. No more bouquets. Done.
You're kind of bringing some life back to the top coat, so to speak, by applying the coating versus out the gate. It's, and it's interesting because the brand of film that I used for the majority of my career, anyone who knows about my business knows what brand that is. And I really like their film. I mean, it's fantastic, but theirs is extremely hydrophobic. And it was interesting how some coatings, they would just sort of slide around. And I'm like, this is not doing anything. We're just kind of pushing product around and picking it up with our towels. And then some, it would seem to actually take to the film. But HPC Pro and the new Armorius, is both of those took to it very well. So it's a very interesting landscape if you really think about it. Like, what are you doing with mixing and matching all these different products, and how is it going to affect things years down the road? So I would venture to say, it's my experience with your guys' PPF coating. It's applied to any PPF that I've put it on just fine. Had no issues with it, but yeah, it's probably going to do best with your guys' PPF. And it's funny, you mentioned that about like letting it kind of degrade. I know of one person who would polish the PPF right after the installation. Obviously,
No.
Yep. Obviously
No.
very lightly, so that he could put the coating on.
Okay. Now I understand a little bit more. Yeah.
And I was like, I hate polishing PPF because in my mind, I just think you only do that when there is no other option. Like my truck. So my Raptor had water spots on it. It lives outside under trees, has a hard life. I had not coated the film. And I'm glad I waited, because I got to use your guys' PPF coating on it, and it's been phenomenal. But it had water spots on it, and thankfully Energo got them off. But had it not, we would have had to polish it. But to me, I'm like, you are burnishing the top coat off. Yeah. You're abrading the top coat off. I'm like, and I have had customers, this happened one time. They went through so many automated car washes with their full PPF car. This was crazy. So he went through it like every day, like on his way home. He was or like every other day, for like a year and a half straight.
Whoa.
So he calls me and he's like, it's a black car, of course. And he's like, yeah, I'm about to trade it in. Just need you to do a light polish on it. The film's kind of looking not so great. I'm like, okay, whatever. Brings it in. It was just absolutely destroyed. And basically what we determined was, the brushes on this car wash, it's a very aggressive automatic car wash, had taken the top coating off of the PPF entirely. So like you just had the straight TPU that was exposed, and there was nothing you could do. Like it was ruined. And so whenever I polish PPF, I think of that. I'm like, I don't want to polish all the way through this. I just want to not polish it at all costs. So,
yeah, but you gotta define. I mean, my God, if there is no other way, there's no other choice. Okay, but polishing the PPF, there was before there were maintenance, because I understand. Yeah, you have this brown looking PPF, you want to make it look better, and you start polishing and using abrasion to take off anything. So that's very happy that we have now chemicals that can go deeper than a polishing machine. So we don't have to touch it. We just throw the chemical on, rinse it off, and then everything is gone. And then I'll help with some coatings that is going to minimize that as much. Because if in PPF, if there is anything in PPF, you should have like a 5-minute crash course. Okay, if you see a bird drop, remove it immediately. If you see water, try to remove it as fast as possible. And bug impacts, rinse them off. And then that's what you need to do. For the rest, go ahead and just treat the car like you would normally do, and be amazing yourself and enjoy yourself. But focus on those 3 things, and then you will be fine. No special things necessary, just prevention. No more solutions for problems, just prevention. We have prevention. We're not going to make the problem.
Right. So do you guys have any plans for glass and wheel coating? It sounds like from your explanation today, STC would be your best wheel coating solution.
Yeah, so based on what I see in the market with the guys in the using, so I see a lot of HPC Pro installations, a lot of STC in naked, so standalone, and a lot of STC and HPC Pros. And I have, for me, wheel coatings, if in any, the only thing they make it easier to clean. Hydrophobics die too fast. What would you have more? There's no abrasion resistance because everybody's using the toilet brush in combination with extreme chemicals and a lot of mechanical force. Violence. I'm going to say violence. It's not force, it's violence. The way I see some guys jam these brushes in between the brake caliper and the rim, it's like sanding the surface, man. So for me, wheel coatings, one, can we make a dedicated wheel coating? No, because most wheels are already clear coated. They have something on it. Very rarely you have the polished aluminums or the chromes and some powder coated ones, although the powder coated ones also have clear powder coat on it. So you could also coat that with a normal paint coating. So, and heat resistance, absolute bullshit. Please, nobody ever mention the heat resistance again unless you drive on a circuit or something and then talk about heat resistance, because I've never had a hot rim other than when I was driving down the mountain in Afghanistan and my brakes started lighting on fire.
Smoking. You got bigger problems than your hydrophobics on your wheel coating if your car's smoking.
I mean, for sure, that's great that the ceramic coating can do that, but it doesn't need that. So the other one, the window coating, yes, but the window coating has been an ongoing project for a long time because the only thing we have is sort of a sealant glass cleaner in one, Aquavelox. The cleaner part is not on the bottle, but I know it's also a successful cleaner. And it needed an upgrade because you now already experienced range speed in Maniac. And if you look at it factually and in comparisons to the application, the time, then the range speed would beat Aquavelox in many cases. Price, speed, efficiency, stuff like that. So it's time for an upgrade. So I got 2 of them on my car right now. One is a ceramic coated version, ceramic coating version. So one you put on a suede, you rub it into the surface, you wait, you wipe, and you're done. The other one is a spray and go product. But if I tell you now that the spray and go is now outlasting the ceramic coated version, probably also because I had a bad installation with the ceramic coated version. But in any case, it is a fantastic product. But I'm looking for something now. It was a great idea from Marco. When you have, say, okay, so let's draw this situation. You're trying to get ready for an installation for a window. You have done all the preparation. You have the product on the suede and you're going to put it on. And then when you take these products that just need the little, what you call the little rubbing pad, like Glaco. Glaco is a fantastic example of the product inside, and you have a little stamp and you do it like that. So basically you're applying and dosing the product at the same time. So there's less chance with an application like that, and you have less coverage because you're wetting and you're rubbing. So you're going deeper. And with the ceramic coating, you're just going back and forth. And it's funny to see that after the installation, the parts where I stopped with the suede, so instead of doing the full length of the windscreen, I stopped halfway through and I went up and down and halfway through. That was freaking interesting because I was seeing after the installation, you could immediately see there was less coating and more coating. So I didn't have full coverage. And then the water-based version, because one is ceramic coated based, solvent based, and the other one is like it's literally water-based. So it's literally kicking the living shit out of the ceramic coated version right now. And the installation is like a dream. Absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. It brings me back to the old Rain OK days.
I'm not familiar with that product.
No, it's from US, man. It's a yellow bottle, Rain OK.
Like Rain-X?
Rain-X, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Rain OK is from Bulls One, Korea. My apologies. It is Rain-X. Give me the Rain-X days. Water-based, spray and go. But then now with new ingredients, making it like extremely freaking hydrophobic. It's beautiful. Beautiful to watch.
Well, I'll be interested to see what you guys come out with for glass, because I'll be honest. I mean, Aquavelox and Rain Speed, we kind of stopped installing ceramic coatings on glass when we started using those. Like I stopped mentioning it to customers, stopped offering it, because we did find one brand in particular with a ceramic coating for glass that was substantial. I mean, legitimately, it would last 2 years on a daily. It held up to the wiper blade resistance. It was the real deal. But the install was just time consuming. It was just tedious. It would ghost. So you'd have to come back, wipe it off again. And obviously, if you didn't get that ghosting and catch it and you went and ate lunch and then came back, you got a spot, then you got to polish it off. And then I would be so paranoid or OCD about it that I would be like, all right, if I have a high spot on this piece of glass, I'm going to polish the whole entire piece of glass, reinstall the whole piece again. So it was just kind of one of these things where super time consuming. And then you look at also how much do you charge to install ceramic coating on glass? Is this really worth it? So rain speed and Aquavelox are shockingly durable. Like, I mean, my truck does not have a great life as far as detailing goes. You know, it's a great test subject because it lives under massive trees. It does not get washed as often as it should. So it's a great testing ground. And the rain speed in Aquavelox does not give up. I mean, it takes, I feel like in my experience with rain speed or Aquavelox, you know, you're looking at like 3+ months, 4 months. And for how fast it is, I mean, after you wash the car, you know, clay your glass when you're washing it, clean the glass, apply it. It takes no time and you're set for another 4 months. It's great.
It's, you know, I was before that we had a product called double window glass coating. We were developing it, testing it, trying it, and then it came the test from Pro Detailer magazine in combination with Forensic Detailing UK, John DeLoe, and they combined forces and they thought of a windshield wiper test. Took a piece of glass and actually made a machine of a wiper and dropping in water. And they were doing the test and they were comparing all these products. And then halfway through the test or halfway through the preparation, they said, we need to divide this because we got these spray and go products, you know, spray, wipe, and you're done. And then we have these complex ceramic coating, multi-layer installations. So we're going to divide and then we're going to make separate groups because the spray and goes, you cannot compare them to a ceramic coating price, quality, time, preparation, duration, and stuff like that. So they divided it and that was actually pretty freaking smart, because it gave a more clear idea of what these products can do. So you had the section of the spray and go products versus the ceramic coated products. And then that product that we sent it to them. We never made it, but the fact that it landed on place 2 or 3 with a single layer installation versus G-Technic winning with a 2-layer or 3-layer installation, then we were on the right way. But I have to be honest, I'm not the guy that off camera, you will not see it, but I wear a mask a lot. And this was the first time I've ever opened a bottle that was running to the cabinet by putting a mask on. This solvent gave me the creeps. So I think that's one of the reasons why we're not going through with it, because that was a solvent. You smelled it a little bit and then your mind and body immediately goes, this cannot be good. I'm going to put something on my face. Because it was very, very potent, pungent odor from this solvent. So making the installation in close areas, absolutely not a very nice experience. So you will definitely need some ventilation and good airway protection. But this spray and go water product, I think this is going to be the one. I'm hoping to
when you say spray and go, do you mean like beneficia or you mean spray and wipe?
Spray and wipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spray. So it's like a quick detailer application. That's what I go spray and wipe. You know, it's it's no effort whatsoever and you get a lot of it.
The other thing too with glass is water spots. You know, it's like you go through all this pain of it's very similar to the conversation we had earlier about the coatings for the paint. You know, let's say there is coating out there, which there probably is, that will actually be hydrophobic for 8 years or whatever, you know, 5 years plus. It's probably not going to look very good after 5 years, you know, of life. So same thing with the glass coating. Like that's why we kind of went away from it. Is yes, it is durable. Like I can look a customer directly in the face and say, this will last for 2 years on your glass, even if your car does not get great maintenance. But, you know, like in the case of my truck, I don't mind putting rain speed on every 4 months because I get to clay the glass. If there's a couple of spots I need to polish, you know, it keeps my glass looking good. And the time that it takes to do it is nothing. So I kind of lean towards your guys' products. Changed my mind about that, because for years I would always just go straight to the glass coating because I felt like everything else I used was just not very durable. You know, it lasts 3 or 4 washes. Then it was like, oh, the wiper blades have just annihilated this. The side glass, rear glass was fine, but your windshield, you can't really see out of it. And then you're applying it all the time. But something about y'all's products, it seems to be resistant to the wiper blades, which is really cool.
Yeah, and if it's, you know, if they figure out that the price of this product is not going to become very expensive and that the application is going to be very easy, then I mean, if those two, so if the price and the application are very easy or very fast or don't need very much preparation, my duration expectations can go down a lot. I have no issues reapplying a product that is taking 10 seconds of my time every 6 months. Definitely not. Definitely. And as soon as I see diminishing, because I think you can agree with me that if somebody has a ceramic coating installation in a windshield coating or a windscreen coating, and they are going to deplete that. So they will probably dive into a very long, and then before they start replacing it. So because they spend so much money, they're going to wait until either the entire hydrophobics are going down before they say, okay, we're going to do reapplication or we're going to change to something else. So people probably driving around longer with a failing coating than adding something very simple that like range speed or Aquavelox.
Yep, totally. We're on the same page. So I just wanted to throw this up here. This is a great chart. If anybody watching this wants to take a screenshot, this is a great, just has all the different, I won't go through all these obviously, but it has all the different metrics of each coating, what it can and can't go on, or is recommended to go on and not recommended to go on, chemical resistance rating, self-cleaning, hardness. So this is a really useful chart. We need to put this on the website.
Yeah, see, 1 hour, 1 hour. So everything changed to 1 hour. Is that true? So if I look at stratification, that is row number 4 or row number 5. It's everything is 1 hour. BLINDO plus H between is 1 hour. HPC between HPC Pro is 1 hour. Okay, yeah, because that is also, I would say, debate is not the right word, but the discussion going on when to put it on. And I was talking to one of the Dutch guys last week, and he just wanted the confirmation. And he said, "Hey, Reggie, I'm thinking about this, and I leave this and this amount of time between BLINDO and HPC Pro. For me, it works better." And I said, "Okay, are you successful? Yes. Do you use more product than normal? No. Is there anything difficult or changing? No." I said, "Then please continue." Because there's so much people saying, okay, do it immediately after. So 10 minutes after HPC immediately, or BLINDO immediately put HPC Pro on. If you can install a ceramic coating, that means you could theoretically install every single ceramic coating. Because there's a description, there's an instruction, and yet so many people fail when they change the ceramic coating. And they are focusing on the wrong things. Look how cool they look when they apply the ceramic coating. How even their cross hatch pattern is, how much of their wiping is. So they are focusing much, much more on the way it's looking than the actual installation. And especially because of that, then you have these discussions going on. No, you have to put it immediately because I feel that it's better to put it on. No, that's not a good argument. Your feelings do not count in science. We cannot take your feelings and put them in a jar. Your disappointment, your aggravation, your happiness, your euphoria. It's difficult to put in a bottle. It's not an ingredient yet. So making decisions about ceramic coatings production is that at the end, you are confident that you have a good formulation and they are going to look for the easiest way to apply this product and then look for the best way. So in the beginning, with old HPC, there was 3 hours in between STC and HPC. Now there's 1 hour. And it has to do with, I will probably not going to make this statement, but I think most likely because the solvents in HPC 2.0 are so soft and delicate that you can put it on immediately 1 hour after STC. Because if the solvents were harsher, you could start attacking the fresh STC. And when I was testing a coating that was actually so good, that had so strong solvents that it removed STC completely as a top coat. And it took me 6 hours to figure out what happened. And then the chemist walks inside and he looks at the roof and he goes, "Oh, I see it. It took down the STC." I said, you fucking piece. I said, I've been standing here for 6 hours trying to figure out, because I had darkening, very dark, I had the control piece, then I had darkening, and then I had nothing. So I was like, what happened here? But it didn't get to my brain that I was removing something, but it looked even less. I was like, what's going on? And the chemist walks inside and he goes, "Oh yeah, see, it's the regressive solvent." I said, God damn my mind. I've been standing here for 6 hours, man. You fix it in 10 seconds. But that necessary 6 hours gave him the conclusion that he understood that his volatility of this solvent was too fast. So he was going for fast curing. By creating fast curing, he was using harsher solvents that had a higher volatility rate and therefore were more aggressive for the previous applied ceramic coating layer. Yeah. Does that make sense? Because
no, that makes sense.
I'm almost drowning in my own words. What the fuck?
No, that's interesting. So a few more topics. I know we're an hour and a half in here, but that I wanted to go over. So start with the first one. Veritas and Fiero. So I kind of wrote off Fiero as like, this is a coating primer, like every other coating primer. And that's obviously not the case. So, and I was also surprised about Veritas using it to remove high spots like easily, no elbow grease needed, not, sitting there rubbing on it real hard. Talk to us a little bit about that.
So first, Veritas, very important. The Latin word for truth, a highlighter of swirls. So after a polishing operation, there are lubricants that can also have filling capabilities that are not designed to be filling, but can fill or give an altered, distorted result of what it actually should be. And Veritas is a combination of a lot of oils, so alcohol, methanol, cetanol, butanol, and it has the potency to remove ceramic coatings in its first 24 hours. There's a lot possible in removing fully dried in ceramic coating from all spectrums. I'm happy to say that Andreas did some testing by himself and can confirm that even MOHS was partially removable after 24 hours. So that's fantastic.
Wow. And obviously that's undiluted. So for people who don't know, this Veritas is it is a concentrated panel prep, which I think is awesome. It's
right now, I believe it's the strongest in the world. I think G-Technic's version, the panel white PW, was equally as strong a couple of years ago, but they made it a little less
not user friendly.
Yeah, it was less.
Don't use it on black paint, or
exactly.
Maybe I used an old version and they've updated it since, because this was a long time ago.
But it was an incredible panel wipe.
It was like
caused
the paint to swell and stuff. It was crazy.
Instead of what was it called? Instead of actually removing something, most of these panel preps are just a little bit of alcohol. They're more like a tack solution for PPF than they are degreasing for polishing residues and stuff like that.
Right.
So our solution was to make something that can actually go, has a slower evaporation rate. So IPA evaporates very slow, creates more friction during the application and the wiping, and therefore Veritas needed to be better than all of them, and then basically be your main guardian angel in the capability of your fixing the mistakes of your ceramic coating. So the preparation, and after, if you have a high spot, a little bit of dapping, or even if it's possible, you can remove everything with pure Veritas. But it is a very powerful product. And I have to also be honest, because of the release of the oil-based polishes, let's say, the Veritas does not work on those at all. So it works on all conventional polishes, water-based and stuff like that. But the oil ones, it's doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And that is important to know, because do not blame our ceramic coating if you put our ceramic coating on oil. If it's on a clear paint, then you will have success. If it's on oil, it's not going to bond. And when it's not bonding, it's not going to last.
You're referring to the, I don't want to call out brand names, but the spray type polishes.
Yeah, but I have to be honest, there's a lot of it. So it's not only them, there are a lot, and it's because of the market. So basically I have to blame the consumer, because they want results with no effort, but still have a perfectly looking car. And if that is the demand from the customer, manufacturers will start playing around and trying to answer that question from the consumer, regardless of what they are putting inside. So we see certain lubricants that have been out for a long time that now are being reintroduced because they have high lubrication and filling capabilities and mask everything, but they're also extremely carcinogenic. So
this reminds me of Fillergate, as I like to call it, from way back in the day, the Sonax Perfect Finish.
Yeah, but
I cannot remember who did the testing on it. There was a very elaborate, this is back in the forum days, so I don't think it was videos, but it was like they were using like oven cleaner. They were using all these things to try and get the perfect finish off. And they were like, look, it is leaving such a durable filling behind. And I think they've now since changed the formulation. This is like over 10 years ago, but I remember that was just the biggest blowout, because you had these people who were so loyal to that product because they were like, oh, I can finish down the most finicky jet black paints that just no other polish works. And it's like, well, come to find out, there's a reason for that. It's because it is leaving behind a very, very durable filler. And then the argument shifted to, well, if the filler is that durable, then who's to say it's not okay just to coat over the filler? you know, which I was always in the camp of like, that can't be good, you know? So, yeah, that was it's like we've come full circle. We're now back to the ultra filling polishes and
because if you don't want to learn how to polish and you don't want to spend the time and effort, the machine, energy, and the experience, the hassle by learning to polish, a product like this is perfect because you just wiggle it around on the paint. You have an improvement. It looks better than before. You have easy wipe off. So why not? But if it needs to be the base for ceramic coating, there are better choices. And the same goes for preparation of polishing. And in the face of Fiero, when we are making Fiero, yes, we discussed this with many things. Yeah, should we go into the essence type? Should we go into the polishing type, more like the ultra finishers, or are we going to create something new? And there was the challenge to make because now, I don't even know how long it is ago, but people said I was using Fiero in an application. And I said, you cannot apply Fiero because it's not a protective product during the polishing operation. So this is the most technical story they have tried to explain to me, but this is really the one that baffles my brains the most. So Fiero is a super refinisher. So it's a finishing polish, but it has self-assembled monolayer technology inside. SAM technology. It's inside. It's water-based. I also know that. I know I've seen the abrasives. I let it dry up. It is transforming into something. So you're polishing. What is the side effect of polishing? You create heat. Now, during that heat or temperature, something in that product is changing. One of those ingredients is changing. I'm going to use the same analogy that I'm also using. Weed has the same thing. Weed is THC. When you keep it by itself, it's tetrahydrocannabinol, so THC. But when you heat it, 157 degrees Celsius, it transforms into THC delta 9. So it's the same substance, but different. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens in Fiero. There's something in Fiero inside that changes its chemical composition during the polishing. That what is left behind, so that it's not a filling layer, it's not a sheet of material, it's something left behind, so simple and so something that doesn't change the finish, but helps you bond the ceramic. So when we say you can coat immediately after Fiero with no time in between, so you finish your wipe off, you coat immediately. That is what it's designed for. Do you need to Veritas because your OCD is kicking in? You are most welcome to. We know that there's a very big group of detailers that will not accept change. They will not accept innovation, and they are right to do so because they have been disappointed in the last 20 years a lot with lies and over-promising.
Yep.
So they don't want anything between their ceramic coating and the paint. So for them, we give the option, you can Veritas Fiero, no problem whatsoever. The finish, or the clarity of the finish, is not going to change. What is going to change is the surface tension. So with the Fiero transformation, there is a smoother surface to the touch.
Oh, yeah.
Without, it just feels like a degreased alcohol surface. It feels rigid, like the wet finger around a wet balloon. That is the roughness you feel. But for the rest, it's exactly the same. So it's just polishing and then immediately coat. And indeed, this is great because there was a guy in UK. Sorry, Scotland. I have to say Scotland. He's going to kick my ass if I do it again. But he's from Scotland. And he had this test where he said, can I prove the actual working of Fiero? And I said, sure. You take a panel, you polish it. One side you degrease with Veritas, the other side you keep with Fiero. You put the coating on, you cook it with infrared. And then you will see if it's capable of being removed with Veritas. So in his test, I believe it was 2 times, 10 minutes, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Don't kick my ass for the wrong number, but he did 2 times. At the first time, it was still easily removed with Veritas on the Fiero side, and then on the Fiero side was already difficult to remove. Then after the second round of heat with the infrared, on the Fiero side with STC was impossible to remove with pure Veritas. Still on the left side was capable of being removed. So what does that mean? Based out of this test, you could say that Fiero helped the coating get to its maximum potential in 50% of the time than when it was naturally aired. So without Fiero, it took 50% more time to bond and fully close the cycle than without. And then we have to add the heat as well from the infrared. So the infrared speeds up this process.
Sure.
We can never say how much, but that it speeds up is scientifically confirmed. There is more happening and it's faster, 100%. But I cannot put a direct number on it because it would be speculations. But in this test, and And this is the good thing about a test, because if you have a test and you have the parameters of a test, that means that you can repeat the test and then you should have the same results or almost the same results, because there will be a couple of variables that you can't control. So what I did is I took it back home. He showed me all the videos that he did, and I repeated the test and I made a video. And in the video, I had the exact same result. 2 times, completely closed, ready to go. Fiero did it for itself. So the bonus for Fiero is that you can coat immediately after the polishing round. There's no waiting in between, no degreasing necessary. You are welcome to do so if you need it. And then you can immediately coat the car, and therefore speeding up the process. The bonding is going to go faster, so there's less chances of that first week failing. Less chance. I'm not saying it's impossible, but at least less chance.
Okay, so I've at one point in time fell into the camp that you just described of I couldn't have my mind changed. I was like, I didn't like primer polishes when they first came out. You know, the concept of it to me was like, I want bare paint, you know. But you get a jet black Escalade and the coating is, you spent hours and days slaving over the finish, and then the coating's hard to install, and you know, you're fighting the scratches, and it's just like a very rough as it drags across the paint. Fiero gets rid of that for me. I mean, it's a very smooth application. And when you explained the same technology to me, you know, prior to even using Fiero, I would always be paranoid of, am I getting all the oils and lubrication and everything from whatever products I use to correct this car? Am I getting it all off? Granted, this was before I used Veritas, so I'd have to do some testing. But to me, it was never 100% removed with the panel preps that I was using prior. Like I felt like you can wash it again with a strong APC or whatever and try and break it down, and then panel wipe it a bunch with a strong panel wipe. But I feel like there's always a trace amount of something left on the surface. It's never like surgically clean, you know, and maybe that's possible with Veritas. But so after I experienced how easy it is to install the coating with Fiero, I kind of shifted my thinking, and I'm like, well, if I know there's going to be something left on the surface, I'd rather it be something that's designed to make the coating attached to the paint. I'm like, you know, versus like lubrication or filler or whatever. So my question is, what is superior? And maybe there isn't a yes or a no or A or B here, but Veritas fully prepped surface, totally bare, or say, you know, you do Veritas after your final polish or whatever, then you polish with Fiero and apply the coating. Is there one that's superior in terms of like attachment of the coating and quality of the installation?
I would say I will be a purist. I will go for the purest installation. So Veritas to the end and then put the coating on. But in commercial, so if it was my perfect world and I have the time and the capabilities of doing this, I will probably do it like this. But this is not a perfect world. So you see me using Fiero 99 out of 100 times, simply because this is the best solution for now. I'm making more risks by using Veritas. It's there, you know, remember old glass repaints when you just go back and forth with the microfiber and you already had scratches? In fact, if you looked too long at the same spot, you could just eye and glare in a scratch.
Yeah.
So for those cars, you are already having to accept that the installations are not going to go flawless. You will see drag lines of microfibers. So if there's anything beneficial to the coating, and I'm saying, like, I'm a purist, that it is always better to put it on a naked substrate, always, that there's nothing in between. But to ensure or to increase the chance of a successful installation, it would be better to use Fiero. Because the chances of bonding is better, the speed of bonding is faster, so there's more chance of a successful installation. Everybody's thinking about a successful installation about when the last microfiber has wiped the surface, but that first 24 hours, standing inside, outside, sunlight, rain, humidity, it has to do with the curing or getting to its full potential. So if Fiero is in between that, speeding that process up, giving the nature less chances of screwing up my installation, that is already very, very difficult to prove that you did a good installation. Because like you said, and like I've never seen it before, also with none of our coatings, that I've never seen a 6-year-old HPC Pro and STC. I've never seen it. I've never seen a 90,000. I've seen BLINDO Plus go over 100,000. Yes, I've seen that. Parts, not all the car parts. But I've not seen something manage the duration. So is it going to last or outlast? I cannot tell, because I'm not having the data of 3-year-old ceramic coatings that have Fiero in between.
Well,
But
if I'm throwing my vote in there, I would say if it's a soft's probably not the right word, technically speaking, when talking about paint and clear coat. But if it's a difficult to work on jet black car, I'm using Fiero.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Simply because, I mean, it's, you are going for the result. That's you're trying to get to that result as fast as possible without the loss of quality. So any increase of that result, that's time saving and labor saving commercially. Of course, you would always do Fiero. You will probably do Fiero if you do a quick detailer application. You mean, you will use it for anything, preparing for protection, anything. But in detailing, it's probably time to start making the vision that somebody starts a video, says this is a specially designed video for end users, consumers, weekend warriors, and somebody should say this is a business B2B type of a product description. So when I'm watching, then I'm already knowing, okay, this is my field of experience or my era of why I'm interested in, and then I'm not so much into the end user. It's a dime in a dozen. It's very difficult to find something unique in over consume end user type of products.
Right. So I pulled up Perfecta 2.0 here. I meant to pull up Perfecta SiO2, but we're going to have a separate episode on the detailers, Cupido, Beneficia, basically all the non-ceramic coating types of protectants you guys have. That I want that to be its own topic. But the reason I pull it up is you guys seem to be unusual in the fact, and I actually like this, that after installing the coating, there's not a protocol of, okay, now you need to wipe the car down with this sealant to keep it like protected for the next 24 hours.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. So yes, if you look in the real coating book, there is in the end there is a proposition of a red line guideline on how to maintain your car, and in that, if you read that correctly, you will see that the first wash is like Prima Sempa or Nava Sempa, and it's always with SiO2, or in between two washes, no. So one yes, one no.
But
that's
one no. The first wash, right? Not like instantly after applying it.
After first washes. In the wash protocol, you will find that they put a Revitax in there. But for me, in teaching, I teach to use these products as solutions. So an SiO2 for me is not going to go on the car right after installation. It's not going to go on the car when it's performing. It's going to go on the car when there's a problem that is going to minimize my chance of repeating the wash process. So if there's water dropping from the mirror after the wash, or water dropping from the back window and the windshield wiper, that little area where that water is dripping is where I'm going to use this quick detailer. Spray and take off the problem. I'm not going to cover the entire car with a less durable product than the ceramic coating. So that I'm going to prove this 1000% for sure that this year I will manage to do that. I will do a 50-50 of a hood. I will install a ceramic coating on both sides of that hood. Then I make a 50-50 and I will divide, and I will start putting a quick detailer on the left side and keep the right side by itself. Then we will see that quick detailer is going to perform for a while, then it's going to diminish, and then it's going to turn flat, and then the ceramic coating is going to come back to life. I want to prove this because I've experienced this now 2 or 3 times.
Interesting.
Where I've put a ceramic detailer on top of a ceramic coating, and then after 2 or 3 weeks, it turns flat, dead, completely dead. And then a couple of months later, it comes back to life. It's like, and it was a SAM installation on my brother's car. It's like, how is this possible? The car cannot just automatically start beating again.
What is happening there? Like,
yeah, so the quick detailer did what it needed to do. Then this quick detailer was accumulating dirt, dust, I don't know what else, but it is there. So it looks clean, but the water behavior is done. And then probably what I think happened is that the particles completely degraded from the surface, then exposing the ceramic coating again. But then I went into this roller coaster of having beads and no beads to having beads again, but no clear explanation. So I'm definitely going to make a project about this, because this is very interesting, and I can immediately kill all the people that really want to top off their ceramic coatings with as much products. It gives me a little bit of the old chemical guys days, where I did 3 or 4 products after each other: black light, black wax, V7 and P40 after each other, like that. Bam, bam, bam. It felt good and it looked good and it was a lot of fun to do. But now I'm a little bit older. Now I want functional, reliable, repeatable successes and systems to keep that ceramic coating alive. Because although I like polishing, I really don't like polishing the same car twice.
I know.
And
I was about to say
definitely
that's
not
a lot
doing
of
it.
wiping.
Oh.
It's a lot of touching of the car. Yeah.
True.
So, but just to confirm, you guys, for any of the coatings like the ones I pulled up earlier, you're not, there's really no circumstance where you would install the coating and then 1 hour later go wipe it down with Perfecta because it's about to go outside into the rain. See, that's unique. And I think it's worth mentioning because so many of the coatings on the market don't work that way. Most of them have some sort of like, hey, if it's gonna go outside in 2 hours after the install, make sure you use our sealant to keep the coating protected while it's, curing and all that. So I think there's a lot of people who, if they didn't know that information, they would just default to,
True.
Okay, I just put HPC on. I need to put Perfecta on now. So
yeah, I would say okay. So for labo coatings, I don't really want to say this online, but the 24 hours is still the best, yes, but no shop owner is capable of waiting 24 hours to wait this. So an overnighter, 12 hours, finish the car at 5 p.m., leave it overnight the next morning, 8, you got 15, 16 hours. It's good enough. But in rare cases, at least give it at least 8 hours of complete dry. No water, no moisture, no nothing. If you can manage 8 hours of dry, there is very difficult. No, I'm not going to say difficult, but it's going to be more difficult for that coating to fail. That is definitely one thing for sure. That first 6 to 8 hours of completely dry is probably more important than the first 24.
Okay, cool. That's great to know. So the last thing I want to talk about, and I don't know how much information there is to dive into on this topic, but no PFAS free ceramic coatings. Like that in itself seems to be rare. I'm starting to see more of that get marketed in the industry. I don't think specifically on coatings, but I'm starting to see people pick that up. You guys are obviously setting a trend that people are wanting that. So how is that, I guess, possible with ceramic coatings? I mean, I'm very much a novice on the science of things, but like it just seems to me like a coating is a pretty harsh product. I mean, to make it with no PFAS seems pretty incredible.
I think anything that is liquid that can turn into pure glass in less than an hour, that needs a little bit of more attention. When stuff can do stuff like that, and when it smells funny, or when you smell stuff you've never smelled before. But we are indeed the first that started in 2019, because we kicked out PFAS in 2019. So when everybody's now getting on the anti-PFAS wagon, they have known about PFAS all that time. They have sold you that PFAS product with a smile on their face. And now for them, it becomes important to be PFAS free as well. Here comes the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. It is not possible to prove, other than asking 25 different laboratories to go through our products to try to find the PFAS, because we are only following regulations. What I have done is my own research in PFAS. Right now, at this moment, the research I've followed told me that there are around 4,000 to 4,500 different types of PFAS. Wow. They have not all been identified yet, that to be a specific type. So they know they are in the PF era, but they can be PFO, PFOA, PFA, PFAS. So there are many different. So PFAS is not even one group. It's just one group of a large group, like polymers, polysiloxane. But it's from the same family. It's coming from something. These things also. So if a company says they are PFAS free, who says so? We says so because we are following REACH and CLP, and we have some other ISO TUV certifications that I try to verify, but very difficult if you're not in that field group. So it might sound like an expensive number. Then there is the second thing that can happen, and this has also happened to us. If the raw material supplier, if something happens, so we have a formulation that doesn't contain any PFAS or PFAS, and we have a raw material supplier that by accident has cross-contaminated one of the main ingredients, and therefore not knowingly or subconsciously have put in PFAS in one of our products, it's also a possibility. But not having PFAS for us was and is still the biggest thing, is that when you dive into the PFAS subject for about 10 minutes and you just use Google and show some PFAS infested places, you will see that it is almost everywhere. And when you start to research a little bit what a PFAS is, so a non-natural combination of chemicals that is impossible to break chemically. So they are chemically indestructible. You can throw acids on them, alkalines, they will not destroy. That's why PFAS coatings are so loved, because they are extremely chemically resistant. You cannot destroy them. But PFAS will be here when uranium has depleted to lead. The PFAS will still be here. They will still be here. And we have no solution other than prevention, detoxification of the body. That is also very, very difficult to get this stuff out of the body. And if you look at the things it's responsible for, so infertility, cancers, very specific types of turbo cancers, it is absolutely, it's a freaking nightmare. And I live in the Netherlands, so for me it's a more pressing subject, because we got 3 big rivers from Europe ending in the Netherlands. Rotterdam, there are 3, Maas, Waal, Rhine, 3 big rivers. They also run in Germany. There are a lot of factories between here and the beginning of that river. So we know in the Netherlands that PFAS is everywhere. We know that there is somebody in Japan that figured out how to break the connection, so to make them harmless again, so to break the PFAS connection, so they become 2 separate chemicals where they are becoming biodegradable, something like this. But that process is very expensive. In Belgium, they are trying a test where they are using hemp plants, so basically cannabis, weed. They plant the plant around the fire departments. A lot of fire departments have PFAS contamination because of the powder in the extinguisher powder.
Makes sense.
So they're using the weed to suck out the PFAS. The PFAS is going inside of the weed, and then they take out the weed or the hemp, and they discard the hemp professionally. If you want to do it by sanitizing the ground or cleaning the ground, it is an impossible operation, because you have to move the dirt back and forth and clean it and wash it and put it back into the soil. It's a non-economical possible operation. So they are using different types of things. And the only thing about this is that the PFAS is now publicly becoming some problems. But it has been since the beginning of the fucking invention of the anti-stick ban, has been this problem. It is the same substance that now has a name. And what these bastards are doing is, instead of keeping the same name, so we have across the board from the beginning to the end, the same name we are discussing. So PFAS from now to PFAS in the end. And what do? They start changing the name again to Forever Chemicals. So we are dividing ourselves from the main problem again, making a new problem, because now PFAS and Forever Chemicals, some people think they are 2 different things. No, they are the same thing. But that I believe it's Dark Water movie with Mark Ruffalo. It's about Teflon and the PFAS. It's exactly about that. And this movie is it originated from the 80s or 70s. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's Stranger Things times. Like 70s, 80s, Mark Ruffalo, Dark Water or Dark Waters.
Okay. Well, I know detailing is, for the most part, a young man's game. And so I know what some people will say is, I don't care. I just want the strongest cleaner or the strongest coating or whatever it is. But man, I guess I'm getting old, because I think about my health a lot. I'm like a super health oriented person, and it's all about not just detailing products, but anything. It's the repeated exposure. It's not going to be a one-time thing that's going to make you sick. It's going to be exposing yourself to it. In this case, if you're doing this for a living, hundreds and hundreds of times in small little doses, that it's not good for you. So that's a pretty awesome accomplishment that you guys are able to develop a full product range like this that's PFAS free. It's awesome.
Yeah, but when you go down a certain road, you have to keep following that road. So same thing as that we did the VDA and stuff like that. If we now launch a product that doesn't have VDA, so it's a difficult road, but as we see now, other people are following in the good intentions by trying to remove these products, and that is the main goal. I don't need credits that we were the first. Just get that shit out of all those products.
Yeah, it's in everything, man. It's scary. But so I lied. I have one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. So kind of like the same finishing topic as the 3pH video. What do you think is on the horizon? Do you think that ceramic is the technology for the next 5-10 years, or are there things in the pipeline that you think this might get replaced in the near future?
Looking at the gray, how we went from difficult to install to easy to install in a very short period of time, that easier install is going to increase even more, and probably we'll see a rise in the sprayable coatings. So where the installation becomes more like a quick detail installation, like a spray sealant installation, and less than a ceramic coating installation.
Okay.
If it goes, because we are still declining. Declining is not the right word, but we are still going back into that. People don't want better, great, epic, legendary, and fantastic. The mindset is still fast, easy, simple, and cheap. And as long as that mindset is dominant, we will probably see a trend in the more easy to apply, shorter duration, but more easy to apply range of products. Spray coating, something like this.
Well, HPC to me is like obviously it's not sprayed on, but as far as a suede applied or microfiber applied coating, it's a huge leap. Like, I mean, the ease of use is, like I said, I was skeptical it was so easy.
Yeah, because it's too easy. It's too easy. So 5 years, everybody said, you have to make it easier. No, we make it easier. And the first guy goes, it's too easy. It cannot do anything like it. It's an impossible.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was me. I'm like,
we could never satisfy everybody.
It needs to be harder for it to work.
The OG, I'm going to call him the OG, and I'm going to mention his name, Sergio from Portugal, one of the OGs of BLINDO. He loved BLINDO so much, even though it was a freaking nightmare to him to install in the beginning.
Yeah.
But he liked it so much because his confidence of actually putting something on the surface was, for him, it was no doubt that he put something on the surface. No doubt. Even though he didn't see it, the feeling and the handling, he says, I put something on that car. And that's the OG group of BLINDO. Those people literally just wanted something really difficult because that difficulty gave them at least the idea that I'm putting something on. So there is some gratification that I did something. And I understand them when they said HPC2 and they go like, did I do something? Did something happen? Because it just felt like I was wiggling something around and now it's glossy and beady.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've got some people who I communicate with regularly and that I really respect their opinion a lot. And there's a couple of them that basically that has been their experience. They're like, if it's harder to install, it's usually yields a better result. So obviously I've been trying to say, hey man, give this a shot. It might change your mind. But
yeah. Look at this. Look at this. Try this.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah. So well, that's it, man. Is there anything that you have? I mean, I've put everything out that I can think of as far as coatings go.
Well, I'm gonna leave up the rest to the audience and then see if something interesting comes out from that, and then we'll follow up with a Q&A if necessary. No problem whatsoever. And I'm already looking forward because that means that episode 4 is going to be about the external protection type. Anything other than the coatings?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I don't think we can fill 2 hours with that, but at least we will have, because I like to go into the I forgive you technology, the things that Labo thinks about when you make a mistake. We also give you the solution, and I think we can elaborate a lot more with that. I forgive you, because I wanted to call it AFU, anti fuck up. Sound like more beautiful. I forgive you. It sounds like something you say to a wife. An anti FU means more like something that I would do.
Yeah. No, there is a lot. I mean, that's why I'm glad we're doing these series, because the more I learned from you, it's a lot. You guys have a lot of unique selling points that's hard to get across on a bottle. You know what I mean? So until you actually learn all these facts, you're like, man, I had no idea that, and we'll get into it on next episode. I had no idea that Perfected 2.0 did those things.
Yeah.
And wow, look, it's, if I do run into this problem, it can help fix it for me. And hopefully we drop some good facts on this episode about the coatings, because at a very quick glance, if you just kind of look at the look at the website, look at the offerings. You go, okay, I feel like I understand what these coatings are, but until you really dive into it deeper and see the unique points of each one, it's like, oh, it's really interesting. So
yeah, and just for the record, just want to say this: you do not need a accreditation program or installer course or a training, anything for HPC Pro. If you are business, please contact Nick. You can get HPC Pro. You don't need it's very easy to install, but we want to keep it for the pros. The reason for this is we want to keep it for the pros, so the pros have an edge. If you give a pro grade coating to a consumer, that means your neighbor is not a professional detailer, but he has the capability of putting the exact same coating on the car that your neighbor is putting, and then your edge of giving your customer something special goes away. But at least, yeah, for the businesses right now, one day I hope we just open up everything and put this stuff online and go click, 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 buy.
Yeah, that's it.
Smoking credit cards.
That's it, man. Yeah. So HPC Pro, if you're a business, you do this for a living, you have tax ID number, you're legitimate business, whether it's at home or mobile, or you have a commercial shop, HPC Pro is accessible to you. The BLINDO and STC, those, just inquire with me about it. If we feel like you need training, we can arrange that. In order to have access to those, are a little more involved with installing those. But truthfully, as someone who's installed dozens and dozens of coating brands over the last 10 plus years, they are very user friendly. So happy to discuss that with anyone. And then the rest of the coatings are, anyone can purchase them through the website. Yep. So if you guys are looking for these products, check out the Labocosmetica US website. Check out any of our resellers. Obviously, Parks Car Care is one of them, but we also have Clean Garage. We have Autoality. We have House of Rags. We have
Fine Detailing. Supply. Delta Pro Custom.
Yes.
We need to make a list. Time for
I need to take a list and put it up here in the share the screen and create a list. But
we need a list.
It keeps growing. We just got one gentleman in Las Vegas. I think it's LV Detail Supplies.
I saw a story. He was holding he was at a fair or something, and he was at a stand and it was holding, and we got this in the line. I remember something like this.
Really, really nice guy. And he sought it out. He wanted it. So we keep adding more people, but that's a great idea. I'll make a running list. And as always, thanks to everybody who takes the time to watch this. I know it's a new podcast, and it's been interesting seeing episode 2. We had more views in a shorter period of time, and even though it's only 150 views or whatever it is, that number might seem small, but the way I think about it is, it'd be like if those are all real people, So hopefully, I'm sure there might be some bots in there or something, but it'd be like if you had 150 people in a room listening to you talk, I'm like, hey, that's a lot. So
I would say yes.
We're really thankful to anybody who takes the time to listen to this stuff. And if you have questions, please submit them. Reggie and I will answer them in future episodes. And as always, thank you so much for your time, Reggie. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for everybody's time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this. This was the first time where we literally had a deep dive into the coatings, more specific, almost 2 hours. We didn't digress too much. We stayed on topic mostly. Fantastic podcast. I'm definitely going to use that podcast as a base of information. So if anybody has any questions and you have 2 hours and 8 minutes and 5 seconds to spare, I'm going to send you the link so you can watch this. Instead of binge watching Breaking Bad, binge watch these series and actually learn something.
We're going to keep clipping it up too, up into the little factoids and dropping them on our socials and everything. So thank you again, Reggie. Really appreciate it, and cannot wait for the 4th episode.
100%, man. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon. Have a good one. See ya.
Bye, everybody.